Well, we're back today talking finance with financial advisor Gavin Martin, the founder of Cornerstone Wealth. And today our focus on getting our kids through their education years. And of course that has a huge financial burden associated with it, and almost enough when you're a parent to make you shudder at the cost of getting our children not just through primary school but into high school and perhaps even then through university. To talk through financial issues when it comes to educating our families, Gavin Martin's back with us. Hello, Gavin. Welcome back to 2020.
G'day, Neil. Great to be with you again.
Gavin, your kids are still fairly young, and I don't even think they're all at high school age yet, but you must be thinking about their education going through high school and into their university years.
Yes, at the moment we're trying to work out what the next stage is in terms of high schools and where we go from there. But university, I guess, will come around very quickly as well.
And I know we've spoken before about the cost of just getting our children through education, and depending on where you send your children to school, the costs can be really exorbitant, and some of us are limited in our capacity to afford the top shelf education, but really getting our kids to university is still in Australia a real possibility and likelihood, and particularly if our children are talented when it comes to their areas of expertise and emerging understanding and gifting areas. This is something that we can all aim for.
Yeah, exactly. If you do fall into that category, I guess the options can be quite broad in terms of the options to study or locations to study, but it also can present the opportunity to take up scholarships so that you can be supported through university. So if you have children in that space that are quite talented, then I really encourage you to do your homework on what is available, because some of the scholarships that are there, they aren't really strongly promoted, but if you do dig down a little bit, investigate some of the options, you can save yourself thousands or your child thousands of dollars, and also get additional support to get through the university years.
Interestingly, as you say, scholarships are not widely promoted, and it may be talking to a friend who's aware of scholarships, just knowing where to track them down, because oftentimes they're wanting to give away money to get our kids through uni, and something worthy of taking advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. It's and it is just a matter of asking around and contacting universities, and there are scholarships to support people who are quite talented. There are also scholarships that are means tested, so that to support people that haven't got the financial means to get through university or support themselves through university. So that is an important way to get through those challenging university years. But if that's not the case, if you're not getting a scholarship, then there are other opportunities to get through university. And I really encourage most young people to work partway through university. It does well in terms of, or it looks good in terms of being a well-rounded person once they get through the university years and are being employed in the workforce. I've been on the side of the recruiters as we're interviewing graduates, and when someone's got a more rounded resume with work and university and other activities, then it sort of ticks a lot of the boxes. One
of the big challenges for teenagers going through university, and really for anyone, it could be a mature age university student, is whether to pay for those subjects up front or whether to accumulate a HECS debt, the Higher Education Contribution Scheme. And what are your thoughts, Gavin? Is HECS a bad debt to have, or is any debt a bad debt?
Yeah, in terms of debt, it's probably the least bad debt, namely because it's helping you to get an education which should therefore increase your earning capacity. So that's one of the areas where I think it is okay to incur a debt. Areas where I'm not keen to incur debts is where it's a consumable or something that's going to go down in value, like clothing or other consumable goods. But if you're going to increase your earning capacity, incurring a debt, I think is okay to do that. Ideally you wouldn't, but I think it is okay. And the other thing about HECS is that it's just indexed up with the inflation rate, so you're not actually paying, in most cases I understand, you're not actually paying high interest rates, you're just incurring that debt and it's being indexed up with inflation. So it's not a bad thing, but if you can pay it up front, then there are discounts associated with that, and it means that you don't have to pay out some of your income once you've completed your course to HECS over time.
If you've got your teenagers on HECS and the upfront cost of uni is being deferred until they'll pay it back at a later time, you've still got an awful lot of expenses to look after in just being able to facilitate your teenagers to get through their university years. Any thoughts on what parents ought to be doing to prepare for that big expense and looking after their teenagers to get them through uni?
Yes, that pressure is less if the child is able to live at home because you haven't got the accommodation expense. But where there's the accommodation expense and perhaps the income is too high for government support, then it can be actually quite a drain on the budget of the family. But the standard rules apply, so it's all about if you can reduce your own home mortgage debt, have that paid down, that will take off the pressure. You'll be able to direct payments going to the mortgage into education expenses. I guess you can try to choose a university closer to home so that you don't have to move away from home. But I wouldn't get too caught up on or being too concerned about incurring a HECS debt. But there are other opportunities like I chose when I was doing my undergraduate level studies, is I chose to do a year of what they called industry-based learning. And it's not available to all courses, but my particular course I was able to work for a year. And we were paid not full incomes, but a significant income. And then I was able to then pay down a lot of my HECS debt during that year that I worked. And so there are those types of opportunities. And I would encourage people to think about whether they potentially take an extra 6 months or 12 months to complete their course, but work or get some study completed, particularly if it's in the area of their expertise, to reduce the burden of their family, gain some experience, and potentially set yourself up better for the longer term.
And of course, for listeners in remote areas, there's always that external studies that works the same sort of way. You can still access HECS funding to be able to go through university even when you're not in a university area because the opportunities are increasing in that way. And of course, we're hearing about the NBN and all sorts of the opportunities that will be presented for young people and indeed for anyone who wants to go through university. Well, Gavin, always a pleasure talking about all these sorts of issues when it comes to finance, bringing to the fore some of those things that are important when we need to appreciate the burden that we'll be under when we have children who are going not only through primary school but into high school and into university and perhaps even beyond. I'll point people, Gavin, to your website at www.cornerstonewealth.com.au. Gavin Martin, the founder of Cornerstone Wealth, thanks for being with us today on 2020.
It was a pleasure being with you, Neil.